Okay, so it's back to our turn again, and we now got to make another entry in. Open those doors. Establish a point of domination.
We can start seeing people in our field of view, and like you said, like those doors are open, so people must have been running from them.
So yeah, so we see that doors are open, and it probably means that they were alerted. But I can tell based on their animation states, this child didn't start cringing until I got right to him with my own weapon. So that indicates to me that probably the threat's not right around me. I will get a better feel for that once I in my turn, because the children would start fleeing right away if they perceive me as a threat. So I am going to go ahead and again establish my point of dominations on either side. From his perspective, I now have the ability to be able to really see, right? I don't see a threat there. I don't see a threat anywhere in this little foyer area. And I'm looking down the main hallway and I see a lot of open doors. Okay, this clearly establishes to me that I'm going to wing them in classrooms. We know it's a library. I need to move more dynamically direct to the threat. I'm not going to check every single door. Gotcha. I've got to rapidly go to where the threat is and gain intelligence en route. Closed doors, I'm going to pay a little bit of attention to in real world, but I'd more than likely bypass until I have something that confirms, you know, like a gunshot, victims on the ground, something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and extend my reach so I can be able to see a little bit farther. Okay, I can see all the way to, it looks like a T hallway. All right.
Copy.
And I'm going to bring my partner with me to make sure I've got backup. He's not going to be able to go as far. And I don't want to get too far ahead of him because it means they're no longer mutually supporting each other. So even though I do have a little bit of action unit balance left, 1.7 seconds of real time, it's better to slow down than to get separated.
Understood.
All right, it's back to us again, and we do have open doorways. I don't want to necessarily blow them off. So I am going to do a little bit of a pause to be able to do a quick look in to see if I see anything of intelligence value that would drive me toward a particular area. And you can do facing movements in there to make it more tactically relevant if you want. There are shortcut keys that I'm not demonstrating to allow me to turn and face. But this is like chess. So guys, don't get too hung up around, you know, what does it look like tactically and visually? You can do that if you're trying to demonstrate a tactic, technique, or procedure. But this is, remember, this is about leadership. So this is really about driving overall lessons learned for tactical, incident, and unified command, not necessarily about the tactics. And at this point so far, I'm still not seeing anything that would drive me to think that the shooter is in this hallway.
Copy.
Yeah, nothing. So I'm going to try and get to this T intersection.
Understood.
And I am leapfrogging because I am trying to make sure that I'm at least establishing mutual support for each other. Again, this officer that had to play catch up, he can't get as far as the other one. We've still got a little bit of a balance left, but we are matched up again, and we are much closer to the T hallway. So I'm going to center on that because right now all the intelligence is driving me to assume that I'm going to have to make a branching decision, left or right, at this T. And I'm going to have to rapidly identify which way to go, and am I going to split my team to go left and right, or am I only going to go left, or am I only going to go right? So I'm going to watch this play out and see if anything comes across this in my field of view to determine, you know, some intelligence on the threat.
Oh,
shots fired.
Here's some shots.
Right. How many did you hear?
I heard one.
I heard one. Yeah. Okay. And we have a child that ran out into this area, and it looked like they came out of the classroom that's right in front of us.
Copy.
That's a little bit unique to me. I'm going to check these rooms just a little bit better. What I won't want to do is to start moving closer to the threat. Now I know that there is an active threat. I don't want to bypass any open doorway where I might get shot from what's called the adjacent space. So in studies done from close quarter battle, from the time when I was back even in Afghanistan and Iraq, we learned in close quarter battle that a majority of our wounded from special operations weren't taken from establishing point of domination and being in the room with the threat. You certainly have to deal with that, but most of our wounds were come from adjacent long spaces.
Sure.
I.e., I'm in a hallway and I get shot from the adjacent room, or I'm in the room and I get shot through a connecting hallway or bathroom, whatever. So I don't want to bypass those now that I know that there might be a threat around me. So I am going to pay a little bit more attention as we move closer and probably poke my head in these a little bit more. I think I am going to go ahead and post in here briefly just so I get a better view. Right, classroom cleared, right? Nobody's out there. Bring him out again. Move this guy up and get him to what's called a threshold evaluation. We aren't going to go over tactics, but that'd be essentially what I'm doing here for responders now. I'm seeing nothing in here yet, though, to identify it, but I saw that child come out of here. I at least want to get inside with another point of domination to make sure the threat wasn't in this room. He's not. We've got a hallway decision to make, and I do not want to take a hallway where I don't know what's to the left or the right as a singleton unless I have to.
Sure.
So I'm going to make sure that I have my guys set up and prepared to go to the left and the right simultaneously.
Right. Oh. As soon as we turn that corner.
Right. So from my evaluation of the hallway, we've now seen already we have a wounded. Looks like a child is holding to a headshot wound or a face wound or upper body torso wound, something in that area. I'm trying to see. They are still alive, but also what I see.
The library.
We're at the library.
Where dispatch told us.
So that's where dispatch told us to go, and we have confirmation that this is at least a point of injury or a start point of what the threat occurred. I've only got about a second left of opportunity. I've got mutual supporting fire. I don't want to do anything else. I'm ending my turn here to see what ends up happening with additional intelligence. I'm keeping my eyes open on these doors for sure. Is there another shot? I talk right over him.
So wherever the shooter is, they're not stopping.
Okay, I don't know if you see that. I saw that children were running to the top part of the screen past those blue lockers, and they were coming from further down the shaded hallway to my right. And I had that child that was next to me run off to the left-hand side. I don't know what to do. This is one of those tactical level decisions that have to be made by first responders at a very low level. This is more of like team level work, not even necessarily a lot of tactical command level work. So
yeah,
what
especially you're just two people, where do you decide to go from here?
Yeah, and that kind of goes into percentages of chances. What do you think of the chances of us getting into a firefight?
High.
Right now, I'd say it's about 30%. The other percentage of times would be based on whether or not the threat decides to flee, surrender, or commit suicide, which are all also possibilities that we may see within the simulation. So from our perspective, looking down the long hallway, I don't see anything immediate there.
Copy.
I've established security to my right. I want to post security to the left and see if I get anything that way. Children running away, panicked. I now have to make a decision. Where's the threat?
I think if it was me in this situation, and I saw that the child was injured and that the people to the left and the right of me in the hallways seem to be okay and are running away, I think that I would go inside the library to check for more victims.
Okay.
Or see if the shooter is still there.
Still there, right, because we don't necessarily know. Shots do ring out and echo. We know that we've got some particular movement, but let's go ahead and go off of that, and we'll use it as a potential talking point. So we've got enough opportunity here. We should do a deliberate entry into this room, establishing point of domination again. We wouldn't have done it by ourselves, so we need to get another officer in there with us. All right, so switch officers and bring him back in. All right, so that's kind of what a two-person room clearing opportunity looks like there. And oh boy, what we
Yeah.
got? We had one on the hallway.
Yep.
We've got, looks like a abdomen wound,
Another
head, probably a chest wound,
Chest.
another chest, an extremity wound, and another one out here kind of fades in with the wall. But so what is that total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the hallway 7.
7.
So what does that mean to us right now, even as we start thinking forward?
Not only do we still have to find the shooter and subdue him, but now we also need to be communicating what we're seeing with our responding officers for our ambulance.
Right.
Are we going to need more ambulances? Who's going to call those in while still actively looking for the threat?
Correct. And do you remember how many ambulances did we request?
3, I
3.
believe. Yeah.
And a type 3 ambulance, they can treat more gunshot wounds than just one victim, but how many can they transport at a time?
One.
As a standard. Yeah, one.
One.
One in a gurney. So they could put one in that is what's called urgent surgical. But then they would have to make room for another one there for ground transportation of somebody that had a less life-threatening situation like the extremity wound.
Right.
So I could technically put 2 in per ambulance, but you can at least see that with most of these being urgent surgical, oh, by the way, any abdomen gunshot is automatically urgent surgical.
Right.
It's rarely what I would think of a chest shot or a head shot not also being urgent surgical, which means at a minimum, I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ambulances and a 7th one for him. If it's going to go bad with the threat, I need 1 for him. And that's without the situation escalating further down the hall.
Right.
I need at least 7 ambulances.
Because we still don't know where he is. I mean, there could be 7 more victims that we find.
Right. But he's not in here, right?
Right.
So here's one thing as a discussion point. What I saw, and I don't know if I'm right, but in intelligence, if you noticed, in here, if the cursor showing up, I saw innocents following that track. They came out from the hallway and went down past the blue. And my thinking is that they're running away from the threat, which may mean that potentially the threat is either coming out of this door, which it looks like that shows locker rooms, or is even further down, possibly down the hallway this way.
Okay.
If I'm going to orient, I've seen no indicators to me so far from where I should go other than down that hallway there. But now I've got to make a decision. Is this time with me already gaining enough situational awareness? Should I radio right now and request additional resources and modify that? Or should I continue to look for and identify the threat? Because in 5 seconds, I can't do both.
Yeah. This is when I'm glad that I'm in the marketing department.
Understood.
I think that I would place priority on finding and subduing the shooter.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move out of this location to establish a different point of domination, back into the hallway.
Copy.
All right. So both paths of the main hallway branching off of the library are now locked down. And we've made a decision that we
Copy.
are going to go down one direct path. So I'm at least orient to have both of my fires looking towards potential threat, and that's about as far as I can go. And I end my turn, and I want to watch these innocents to see what additional gunshot fired. And a lot of them came out of the lockers, but some of them, oh look, even more are coming
yeah.
around from this. They're coming around from this column area. Okay. So it could be to the left or right in that locker room. I would prefer to say centerline based until I gain more intelligence. That means for me right now, I don't know enough other than more than likely the threat's to my front. I don't know if he's to the left or the right until I gain more intelligence. I'm going to stay on that center line until something drives me to the decision point to go left or right.
Sure.
So I'm going to continue moving that way. Paying attention to halls as I go. Or, I'm sorry, doorways. Nothing there. Get my buddy caught
Copy.
up. Nothing. Right? Yeah. So it looks like you can see a little bit in there. It's a locker room and it leads into, if you can see back there, it looks like that is the back area to the gymnasium. You've got the principal's office, counselor's office. I don't see any other intelligence other than when I saw people evacuating. I wouldn't spend my time breaking off the center line yet. So I need to get around these children. I'm only got 2.5 seconds. I really only got, nothing. So I'm going to play catch up, and I want to get to lock down this opportunity in case the threat's around that corner. Indicators to me so far is that he might be around in the atrium at the front.
Yeah. You're still running.
Understood.
So something unique happened that I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but from this officer on the left, his point of view, he was able to see, and a child actually ran into the main office. I don't think the threat would be there, but if you notice, they were still running from right to left.
Yeah.
So now my point, that probably means that the threat may be right around this corner. I don't know. But I am going to start being more deliberate and cautious as I move because I want to, make sure I'm doing something right.
Well, when we look at the simulations AI to what children or victims really do in this situation, oh, well, there he is.
Right.
But to finish my point, how often do people run in the wrong direction? In the chaos of everything that's happening, how likely is it that they run directly into the shooter?
It's possible if they don't have enough situational awareness as to what's going on. And you'll see it a lot, too, with the panic of what happens in active shooter incidents where it's a very large location. So let's take an example of one of the active shooter incidents that occurred in a school in Florida. They were actually channelized intentionally. Well, I'll take that back. They moved into a hallway, and many of them were...
It created an opportunity.
It created an opportunity, whether it was created by the threat himself or it was unintentional because of a fire alarm. So a fire alarm may have the gunpowder from the shooting may have set off the fire alarm, and the children didn't know there was an active shooter at that point.
Right.
Or it could have been that the active shooter intentionally pulled the fire alarm. There's differing discussions on what really happened. But the problem is it still creates a channelization of victims into a consolidated area, much like on a smaller scale, but the same thing as what happened in Vegas.
Right.
So if you don't know exactly where the shooter is, yes, it does cause problems. There's also the flight, what's called the fight or flight syndrome. So there is a momentary pause after something traumatic has occurred before the brain has realized what it means in terms of danger. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't recognize gunshots for what they are.
Right.
They'll associate with anything else. It could be that they think it's construction,
A car
backfiring, or whatever it may be, rather than thinking, wait a minute, I'm in the middle of a grocery store and I just heard something go bang, right? Okay, you should automatically think to save your life first, open up your situational awareness and think it's an active shooter incident first and foremost. And then if it turns out to be nothing and it's just a car backfiring, okay, no harm.
Right.
Right. But yeah, there is that panic. And the simulation, the AI are programmed to do that. So the closer they are to the threat, the more stunned they will be and trying to determine what they have to do. Those that are a little bit further from the threat will recognize the shot, but then they have to find cover in order to try and save themselves. And it might take them a little bit of time to figure it out. And then those that are actually further away, they'll be able to see the threat. They will be able to hear what the threat did. They'll put it together, and they'll be able to react faster for what happened. And the probability of their survival is actually greater. So it does take those things into account. But at least off of what I saw from indicators, driving without even interacting with the characters, asking them questions, the flow of foot traffic was going away from danger, which is part one of the run, hide, fight. So they were running away from the threat, which is I drove my situational awareness to gain intel based on what my assumptions were with them.
Understood.
So I'm going to get both of them to establish, they've turned a corner. So one would establish a point of domination. They'd be turning around the corner. And this is what it would kind of look like tactically. Not the best representation. But you can see here, I've got a child to the front, and I have an identified active shooter with what looks like an automatic weapon. And I actually, in the backdrop area, I have a couple more, 3 more innocents.
Right.
So now I've got to make a decision. What am I going to do?
I would say if you have enough units left and if you're close enough, I would try and take the shot. But, I mean, where you are in this school, you have absolutely no cover and nothing to protect any of the children in the area.
Yeah. So here's a dilemma to talk about that is unfortunate. the ballistic capabilities of most of our weapon systems that law enforcement have is sufficient to neutralize a threat. The engagement distances of those ballistics are also sufficient. Now, 9mm could be argued that you're not going to have the knockdown power beyond 25 to 30 yards that you need to take somebody down. Does this look like if I was carrying a pistol 9mm, would this be 25 to 30 yards? Yes.
Yes.
So even if it was a pistol, I would have the distance if I had the accuracy.
Right.
I'm carrying assault rifles myself, 5.56 millimeter. It looks to me like he is currently carrying a 7.62 millimeter, so he has more knockdown. But on accuracy and range of the weapon itself, this, from my own personal experience, I can tell you that you can easily hit targets at 250, 300. If you had advanced sights on there with magnification, you can hit shots with 5.56 at 450 yards. Right, so I've got plenty of engagement distance I can utilize to my advantage. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and take the shot. So what you do is if it is already equipped in their hands, which they both are,
Freeze!
right, he's going to take aim. He hovers until he gets a red circle, and he would pull the trigger by left clicking. Missed.
Yep.
Missed all shots.
Yep.
All right. Here's an unfortunate thing we need to discuss, and this is based on national level information. In a firefight, 80% of the time, officers responding in a firefight miss their intended target. All right, which really goes into training, accuracy, judgment, and capabilities. But the simulation is, again, referencing that data.
Right.
So in 4 seconds and firing 4 to 5 shots, I have demonstrated 0 for 4, 0 for 5.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got another officer,
Good.
and I would probably also do the same thing. Nothing.
Nothing.
So far we fired about 8 to 10 rounds, and we are at a standoff location as we came around the corner. Again, we're not replicating tactics. We are replicating the statistical probability of what's most likely to occur based on your decisions. So let's go ahead and watch this play out now that we can't really do anything else. Let's see what the threat decides to do on this.
Yeah.
Civilian down!
He made a decision to gun one more victim down.
Yeah.
Okay. So he took a civilian down and he continued to move towards us. He did not commit suicide. He did not surrender. He did not flee. That's pretty aggressive. I need to establish a position of cover and return fire, knowing that we are in a very close firefight. So make sure I get the right character selected. I'm going to give him a little bit of cover. And then I'm going to take aim at him.
Threat neutralized.
And I got him.
Yep.
Okay, so for that officer, we had 1 hit out of 6 shots, right? So that is a percentage, and it matches fairly closely to what we have from national level. So at this point, I have a threat down. I have 1 officer with about 3 seconds left of time, and I have to figure out what to do. What is my priority now that I have believed that I have at least taken the shooter down?
You gotta get the weapon away from him just in case. 'Cause
We got
you
it,
don't know.
right. So have we effectively neutralized the threat? Can he still return fire against us?
We don't know.
We don't know. So my thinking would be is I'm going to use the existing officer or the current officer to lay down suppressive fire in case I need to, and I would switch to the other officer and move him direct to him to get up close confirmation, and then try to secure that weapon. And he's got an AK-47. I can grab it and get it away from him,
Perfect.
and then I would move further away from him to drop that gun.
So now that we picked up the AK, can our other officers start the process for calling in more ambulances?
Yes. So this might be a good time, at least initially. We feel that we have identified and neutralized the first threat.
Right.
Are there potentially other threats?
It's unlikely,
It is unlikely.
but we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the average number of incidents of it being more than one shooter is less than 10%. In fact, it's a lot less than that. It is more about, if I remember stats, it's somewhere between 4 and 6%. So yes, we do need to secure this immediate area. We do also need to consider what it might mean for an additional threat, but the statistics are on our side. So at least at this point, what I would say is that we get to a point of cover. We make sure we see the total amount of scene we can that's around the threat, and we've got to call for additional backup.
Copy.
So the only thing I'm seeing is that additional victim right now, which means we're at a total of how many victims?
8.
8 civilians.
And
The shooter is 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 9. Our officers are still up, and I don't think we have any action units left.
Understood.
I do want to check his inventory. He does have the AK-47 on him, and we will end the turn. So another child moving out beyond the area. All right, now it's back to my officers.
Understood.
So I have this officer that is supposed to be able to see around the corner, and you can see that he sees a lot of glass on the left, and he also sees what looks like the front doors to me. Okay, so this is important to me and what it means to decision making of what I have to do to get set up for reinforcements, and I have this officer here. I've only got 2.
Right.
I still have a lot of threats to deal with, potential threats, I should say, and risks. So my thinking is this.
Copy.
I'm going to drop the weapon away from the threat so that he can't get to it. And then I'm going to post him again that allows me to see anything that may have come from behind me, but also allows me to take cover, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I want to post him here so he could use the wall if he needs to. This allows me from this position to see the threat, see the victim, see the weapon, and anything that may come down the hallway as a secondary threat. If I go any further than that, I am going to lose the mutual support of my 2 officers.
Right.
Which means that my other officer can move towards this location.
Understood.
All right, that's the front door. There's no doubt about it. And now we have to make a decision. What are we going to do?